Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder, Chapter 22, Part 2. The bell over the door tinkled, and Sheriff Grant walked in, followed by a hunk of a man that Hannah had ever laid her eyes on. He was tall, well over 6 feet, and had reddish blonde hair, piercing blue eyes, and a mustache. He looked as fit as an athlete, and only the deep lines in his face kept him from being classically handsome. There was a buzz of conversation from the customers at the table, and Hannah could understand why. He was the best-looking man to hit Lake Eden in a month of Sundays. "It's him," Andrea nudged her. "That's Mike Kingston." "I know," Hannah grinned. Her sister had stated the obvious. Mike Kingston was with Sheriff Grant. Who else could it be? "Hannah," Sheriff Grant strode over to the counter. "This is Mike Kingston. He'll be joining the department on Monday." Hannah swallowed hard. She had never been uncomfortable around men before, but Mike Kingston was an exception. The moment she'd seen him, her pulse had quickened, and she found she couldn't meet his eyes. She took a deep breath, willed her voice to be steady, and said, "I'm glad to meet you, Deputy Kingston." "Mike." His voice was deep and warm, and it matched his size. Hannah felt a purely physical reaction she hadn't experienced since her two-timing professor had invited her to his apartment. She turned quickly to perform the introductions, praying that no one would guess what effect just being in the same room with Mike Kingston was having on her. "This is my sister, Andrea Todd, and here's my niece, Tracy, and this is Norman Rhodes. He just took over his father's dental practice in town. I know you're in a hurry, so I'll just zip back in and get those cookies for you." As Mike turned to shake hands with Andrea and Norman, Hannah made her escape to the bakery. Once she was safely behind the swinging door, she ducked into the bathroom and splashed some cold water on her face. If just meeting Mike Kingston was this much of a jolt, how was she going to handle their pizza dinner tomorrow night when she'd actually have to talk to him? Never one to run away from a problem, Hannah decided that there was no time like present to confront it. Mike Kingston would think that she was crazy if she ducked into a different room every time he came into the cookie jar. She marched out of the bathroom, picked up the box of black and whites for the open house, and pushed back through the swinging door to the front of a shop. Mike Kingston turned to smile at her, and Hannah's breath caught in her throat. She hoped she wasn't staring at him like a teenage groupie who'd come face to face with her favorite rock star. "It's really nice of you to bake these cookies for us, Hannah. Sheriff Grant said that you do it every year." "I do." Hannah was relieved. He didn't seem to have noticed how flustered she was, and that was good. "I cater your summer picnics too. It's bring your own steak barbecue out at Lake Eden, and I provide lemonade and cookies." "That sounds good. There's nothing like a barbecue out at the lake." "We'd better get going, Mike." Sheriff Grant turned to his newest protege, and Hannah could see the admiration in his eyes. He had to look up. Mike Kingston was at least 6'3", and Sheriff Grant was a good 4 inches short of the 6-foot mark. The newest member of the Winnetka County Sheriff's Department made Hannah feel petite, and she'd never felt petite before in her life. "See you later, Hannah." Mike gave her a wave, and Hannah smiled. He seemed perfectly nice. She had nothing against him personally, but she was prepared to despise him if Bill didn't get his promotion. "Nice to meet you, Norman." Mike nodded to Norman and then turned to Andrea. "I'm looking forward to working with your husband, Andrea." "That's my daddy," Tracy piped up. "I know." Mike Kingston leaned down and whispered something in Tracy's ear. As Hannah watched, her niece's eyes widened and she gave a delighted giggle. "Really?" "I promise." Mike nodded. "But it's a secret until tomorrow night. I'll bring it then." The minute the door had closed behind them, Andrea turned to Tracy. "What did he say?" "I can't tell you that." Tracy was all smiles. "You heard him say it was a secret, but you'll find out tomorrow night when we have the pizza." Andrea exchanged a glance with Hannah. She seemed pleased that her daughter had gotten along so well with Bill's new supervisor. "I've got to run, Hannah. I'm taking a load of things out to Joanne, and Tracy is going to help me. And then we're going out to the open house at the sheriff's station." "I've got to leave too. I have a patient in 20 minutes. Norman reached into his pocket, pulled out a stack of business cards, and handed them to Hannah. "These are for you." Hannah took the cards and began to smile. They were perfect, and Norman had even printed little cookies around the border. "Thanks, Norman. They're wonderful." I can print out more if you need them. Let's hope I do. Hold on just a second. Hannah opened the cash register and drew out the manila envelope with his mother's loan papers inside. Here, Norman, this is for you. For me? Norman looked puzzled as she handed it to him. It's something I came across the other night. Just open it when you get back to the office. There's a note inside explaining everything. She breathed a sigh of relief as they all left together. She had work to do, and it didn't have anything to do with baking, selling, or serving cookies. She grabbed the print she'd taken from Norman and headed off to the back room to tell Lisa that she was going to take her up on her offer to stay until closing. She had people to see, calls to make, and if she got lucky, she might be able to solve Bill's double homicide case before Monday morning.